This is Creative Speak with Jesse Norris, and today I got Adam Harmless, and we're doing a 50-year anniversary retrospective of the Ramones' self-titled debut album,
Yes.
Ramones.
Hi.
Nice awkward pause to get it started.
That's great. I mean, if anything, I should probably talk towards the microphone. I'll set my phone down. I probably have more to say about the Ramones than I do Tiger Helicide, so that's good. That's helpful.
Yeah, when I saw this album was turned 50 this year, and I wanted to do an episode on it, I was like, yeah, I gotta ask Adam.
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm pretty knowledgeable about the album. I love the album. I am a massive, massive Ramones fan. Also, I kind of make other massive Ramones fans kind of mad with some of my takes on stuff, which I feel like are based in reality.
like, well, what kind of takes?
Okay, so I'm the guy who will point out, you've probably seen it written, if you ever read like The Legend of the Ramones anywhere, they always like to talk about how the Ramones came over to England and played on July 4th, 1976, the bicentennial, and basically brought punk rock to England. And it's like, and they go, members of the Sex Pistols and the Clash and the Damned were all in the audience, and they were doing all, and it's like, and everybody's, oh, that's great. And when I was in high school, I read that, and I was like, oh, that's great. And then I started really like looking at the dates and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. That show occurred exactly 1 month after the legendary show that the Sex Pistols played in Manchester that they recreate in 24-Hour Party People. Like that, so the Sex Pistols had already played their giant legendary show 1 month before the legendary show that supposedly inspired them. And it's like,
so it wasn't.
No, and to be clear, they weren't at that show. They were at the show that was the next night that the Ramones played. Because they weren't at that show because the Sex Pistols were playing a show that night. And you know who else was at that show? The Clash, playing their first show.
Oh.
So it's like, no, that's not it, you know. And I was like, I love the Ramones, but the Ramones would even kind of repeat that stuff because they always liked any kind of positive message about the Ramones, so they would share it. They wanted to be pop stars.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
So anytime you'll see people talking about like how they brought it over, and it's like, I'm sure they inspired a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, if you go to a concert and you see a band really kill, like the next time you practice with your band, like you have this extra burst of energy. So I have no doubt that they really inspired a lot of people. But it's like,
but they didn't bring punk.
Yeah, they didn't bring punk
guys.
rock over there. No, we don't have to lie.
I got here that the album was released in April 23rd of 1976.
Sounds correct.
The producer is Craig Leon.
Yep.
And apparently he also did Blondie and Suicide's first albums.
Yeah, he did. Those came after.
Yeah.
But if you think about Blondie's first album and Suicide's first album, like they have elements that are in that first Ramones album. Because, the first Ramones album isn't recorded normally. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it's, they thought about how they were going to do it, how they were like, it's very artistic, the thought they put into it. Like they did the first Ramones album like an art project. It is based off early Beatles with like the guitar in one channel and the bass in the other and that kind of thing. But it was a very like Suicide has creatively done. Like, Suicide was one of those bands, like, how do you capture that on tape? Blondie less so, but Blondie is almost like the other half of the Ramones, where the Ramones are like not dark, where they're poppy and more friendly, with quirky references to pop culture. Early Blondie especially. So early Blondie could almost be like girl Ramones that's not as fast.
Yeah.
And
they definitely changed a lot by the time that the albums come out.
Yeah.
Like their earlier recordings.
Yeah, their first like 3 albums, 2 or 3 albums are very just stripped down, kind of bringing back 60s pop with a little bit more edge.
Yeah.
They didn't have the disco influence, making it more new wave, which honestly, it's not very punk to say it. It's better after they added that.
Oh yeah, I think so too. But it's cool to see like contextually, like where they're coming from with that sound in the New York scene at the time.
You hear like Ex Offender and stuff by them. It's, but no, like the Ramones, kind of like Suicide before. Suicide album came out after them, but kind of like Suicide before them. The Ramones were considered to be unrecordable. Like if you think about so imagine you don't have any demos of the Ramones.
Yeah.
and you just go to see them, and it's just in this little club, and it's just these loud ass, because they'd already gotten, as soon as they got signed with Seymour Stein's wife Jill Stein and Danny Fields as management, the first things they asked for is like, we want Marshalls, like we want new equipment. So these giant loud ass Marshalls in these little spaces and just this wall of sound, and it's just fast. So it's just noise. So then they're like, yeah, we're gonna put a record out. So a lot of people are like, not just like, how can we sell this content? And it's so new and so fresh. Will the audience get it? It's not even that. It's like, no, how do you record that? How do you record in 1976? How do you record that the loud blistering and the answer is you don't, because that's not what they did.
They slowed it down.
Yeah, they slowed down the
things are
stuff.
a little less distorted on the album compared to live, you know.
Yeah, I've told you this, but when I first heard Blitzkrieg Bop as a kid, I thought that it was like a techno song, because it's got simple, like you could almost think of as like Kraftwerk.
Yeah,
you know?
the drums.
Yeah, it's just very simple. I mean, not easy to play drums, but they're very simple drums. There's a certain style where you have to hold the sticks and shit like that, you know. You can watch some interview with Marky where he'll talk about how Tommy was this brilliant innovator, came up with that.
Yeah, it's just very tight drumming, like all over this album. It's,
super duper tight. But they try to make it sound like it's stripped down, but it's not really stripped down. I once read a reviewer say that the big thing about early Ramones is if they do anything that's different, it's a massive deal. So if you hear like, this isn't on the first album, but like, you know, when you get the quote unquote guitar solo in I Want to Be Sedated, like, it's like, wow, that's a big deal. And it's like, it's nothing, you know, it is, but for Ramones. Yeah. So like when you hear like a crazy cymbal crash somewhere, it's like, holy. So the album starts with Blitzkrieg Bop, which is, of course, the known song from the album at the time. That's the one that, like, when I was a kid, it kept showing up in documentaries and in movies, usually over like an image of traffic. Sometimes they'd speed up the traffic. They would do, I mean, I don't know, they would do it. It'd be like, it's in, I think they play it in the first Vacation movie. You can see it like as they're driving or something. But yeah, I would see it on some PBS documentary about something. They show cars going fast and they'd have that song on it. But so you get that, then you get like Beat on the Brat, which most people of a certain age discovered that in like like Billy Madison when he's playing dodgeball. Then you get like Judy as a Punk. I think that's the third one, right? Yeah. Judy's a Punk. So Judy is a punk. I want to point out, Judy is not a punk. Jackie is a punk. Judy is a runt. I'm just saying. But so when you get to I Want to Be Your Boyfriend, like that is a massive departure from the others. And you don't think it's still so simple, but if you go back and listen to it compared to the others, now you think I was being a lighter, softer song, but that thing has hella more production going on than the other songs.
Yeah, I noticed that.
You hear all the extra like backup vocals and shit.
There's more guitar layers too, than the other songs.
Yeah. The engineer, I think it's the engineer. Somebody in the studio like laid down like backup vocals, and they made sure. I really appreciate this. They made sure to get somebody who could, quote unquote, sing to do the backup vocals, but then they still put Dee Dee on top. So it's like these really pretty backup vocals with Dee Dee still on top of it. So it still sounds like, you know, it's like, okay, it's still them doing it, you know? Yeah. And, but that's like, they knew like this one's important. And in some ways, and we're talking about as far as individual tracks go, as a whole piece, the album's important. But in a way, for that album to be as special as it is, it needs I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. Because it's not just the wall of them making horror film references or throwing in Nazi imagery to stuff in a comic book way, or them talking about being male hustlers or things like, or drug use. It's like them just being the soft, simple love song. It kind of is similar to their cover of Let's Dance.
Yeah, it offers like variety in the context of the album.
But the cover of Let's Dance is more like, we're making this into a Ramone song, whereas I Want to Be Your Boyfriend's much more like soft and sweet and everything. Yeah. But it still has like a good like kind of chug to it. Like the drums still sound like they're hitting kind of hard, so it still has a good strong beat to it.
Yeah, it's just a slower tempo than all the other songs.
Yeah.
The next song on, I was going to put it, the next song on the album, Chainsaw, I really like that. That's one of my favorites.
that might. It's you know how it is. If you listen to the Ramones enough, you change what your favorite is.
Yeah.
But for a long time, Chainsaw was my favorite, and it is straight up. First of all, I love Chainsaw. I love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So, and that's what that's based off of.
Oh,
Yeah, because he talks about she'll never get down from there. It's basically like the girl stuck on the hook.
oh
Like,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
So they're saying Texas. It's first of all, it's funny. They say Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They took my baby away from me, which is funny. They changed the pronunciation of massacre to make it rhyme in the song. But if you take that away, like Chainsaw is a prototype for the Misfits. It is a Misfits song before the Misfits.
Yeah, I guess so. Especially with the
It has woes.
yeah, it's got
And-
woes and
yeah,
it's got like it's based around a horror movie.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it is pre-Misfits.
I wonder if Danzig was inspired by that at all.
The early on Misfits would act like, no, we never cared much for the Ramones. They were kind of boring. Who cares? But later on, Jerry Only would be all over the Ramones, But I don't know. Danzig, of course, more arty, so he'd be like, well, I prefer Patti Smith. He's more that guy.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, there's no way they weren't listening to the Ramones. I'm skipping ahead here, but the song Loudmouth, that's what the first song on side B, I think. I mean, come on, Attitude off the Misfits' first album. Attitude is just a meaner version of Loudmouth.
Yeah.
It's just Loudmouth but meaner, basically, as far as lyrically goes, and attitude goes.
Looking at this track list, this is like I know Rocket to Russia is more
Yeah, that's the one that
loved,
people more well regarded.
but this has just got so many big like hit
Yeah.
songs on it. Like he said, Blitzkrieg Bop, Beat on the Brat, Judy is a Punk, I Want to Be Your Boyfriend. Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't want to go down to the base.
yeah,
Um,
those are all just great songs.
Yeah. Now I want to sniff some glue. That's a that one's very influential. That one is so nya. I think you'd hear about how like early DJs like would throw the record, and Vinny Scelsa said that. Later on he said he really got into the Ramones and changed his mind. But when people first heard it, they're like, "What the hell is this?" I bet you a lot of them stopped when they got to "Now I Want to Sniff Some Glue" because that song is like nya 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 nya. It's so childish and singing about sniffing glue. Like there's lots of songs about drugs up to that point, but they were never about sniffing glue. Like even like the rough New York bands would be singing about heroin. They're not singing about sniffing glue. Like this is just like that just sounds like who are these guys? But that me and you talked about it before, but they they inspired the fanzine Sniffing Glue, the punk rock zine in the UK in England. But it also like in the UK, there was a big controversy because, they had all the tabloid papers. But there was the glue sniffing thing where a fan supposedly sniffed glue and died. And it made all the papers. And, of course, this is like The Sun and stuff like all the tabloids that, you shouldn't take them seriously. Of course, the guy who ran those tabloids is also the guy who runs Fox News. And people take that way too seriously. So we used to make fun of them. We used to make fun of the British for believing the tabloids, and now we just like yummy yummy tabloid, can we have some more? So but that's how it was. And of course that the second album has a sequel to it, Carbona Not Glue, we'll talk about that on that anniversary, I guess. That got cut off the album originally.
Oh, really? It's supposed to be on this album?
It was on the second album, but it was cut off the second press of the first of that one.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It was replaced. So now everybody listens to it, and it's like, yeah, that's how the album goes. And it's like, for decades, that's not how we heard the album.
Why was it cut off? Just because of the content?
I think it was because Carbona was actually like was a trademark company.
Oh, okay. They
So
don't want
it's
to get
basically
sued.
It's sniffing modeling glue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's where they lost people. I Don't Want to Go Down to the Basement is, I've heard or read, I thought it was supposed to be about Last House on the Left, maybe. I can't remember what movie it's supposed to be based off. I don't know if it's directly based off of anything. I think like Debbie Harry said it's about maybe downstairs at CBGB's or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But
there's this cool story. You probably heard it.
Yeah.
About Lou Reed being at CBGB's while Ramones are playing, and he had his like cassette recorder or whatever, the 8-track recorder or whatever.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and he's recording it for full listening.
Yeah, just so you can go back and just yeah, Lou Reed was cool in spite of himself.
Yeah.
He's like that. He was cool before what he was doing was cool, so he's like not cool at the same time as being cool.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the Ramones. The Ramones are kind of that way too. A point of contention with I Don't Want to Go Down in the Basement is that Joey, when he's singing it, he's like, I don't want to go down. And it's like, bass. The bass. It doesn't say basement. And people are like saying bass. And I'm like, I think he's saying kind of like bass. Because early Ramones, Joey always changed his pronunciation of stuff just to match things. You know, he'd say, he'd sing something very British. And then like years later when they do like rock and roll radio, it's rack and roll radio. It's like whatever matches in his rock and roll brain of what sounds like. Some stuff needs to sound Midwest, some stuff needs to sound British. But early Ramones, a lot of the stuff was very British. Like you think the Hey Ho, Let's Go on Blitzkrieg Bop, they're not yelling Hey Ho, Let's Go. They're yelling like let's go. He says Hey Ho, Let's Go, shoot him in the back now. But it's more like let's go, which I'm sure appealed to British teenagers. You know, it sounds like they're going oi almost. It's like oi.
It's funny that like you said, like there's like the legend of like the concert where all those bands in Great Britain saw other Ramones play, but the Ramones are actually doing Joey's doing a British accent.
He's trying to be British. Like, but the Ramones are a weird thing because they're I could mention it later. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and say it now. But like, so the Ramones are this weird combination of real and fake. They're not fake. I don't like fake. They're more creative than people would let on. Like they came up with an image, It's like you don't make all yourselves be called Ramone and not have some where you're not just down to earth kids off the street. You don't change your last name to match and wear matching outfits. That's not it. But they were very much created. Like Tommy Ramone was their manager, and he knew 3 guys he thought was interesting and said they should be in a band together. Put them in a band together. And Dee Dee was the singer, and he had trouble singing and playing at the same time, which I understand because I play da-da-da-da-da. And all my songs that I play on, I sing like da-da-da-da-da along with what I'm playing. Yeah. But then, like, Joey was originally the drummer. Yeah. And then they got him to be the singer, and they couldn't find a drummer because all the drummers in the 70s were going to be, like, 70s drummers, Yeah. So Tommy was the only one who could play it, so he ended up being the drummer. But he's, like, the original guy. So they're putting this shit together. This kind of ties in with 53rd and 3rd, which is later on the album. But, like, people say, like, oh, the Ramones just wore their normal clothes. This is where I make Ramones fans mad. Again, they say the Ramones just wore their clothes off the street. This is them just wearing their normal clothes. They're wearing their
that was
kids.
Definitely a get up. Like that definitely was
they're wearing their ripped jeans. You just wear your jeans so long and they wear out and it's like, okay, teenagers didn't dress like that in 70s New York.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who did. Hustlers, male prostitutes on 53rd and 3rd. Where Dee Dee hustled to get money for drugs. And they basically dressing like Dee Dee. They're basically doing like a down and dirty, rough version. Like, think they're almost like a more nasty underground version of even the New York Dolls. Like, the New York Dolls are like, oh, look, we're wearing like ladies' clothes and we've got the makeup on and we're glam, we're doing all this. And they're just like, no, we are just glue-sniffing street hustlers, And that's kind of, I really think that it's not as much of a get-up. It's not as fake as I'm making it sound. But it was not like, it was an outfit. It was them picking out something to wear and agreeing this is what we should wear for this. And they stuck with it. Tommy, when he left after the 3rd album, Johnny became basically the leader of the thing. Johnny is not about evolution. Johnny's like, we're going to do the thing that works for us. And they stayed in that forever,
Yeah. Havana Affair, Listen to My Heart.
Havana Affair. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. Again, that's one that kind of mixes up stuff. It's kind of a spy thing. A lot of people mention Spy versus Spy, which I guess that would make sense. Spy versus Spy was created by a Cuban, so it kind of goes with it.
Okay.
But the Ramones, like a lot of punk rock and proto-punk, very influenced by growing up with television and movies. So that's where a lot of this stuff comes from. It's like, they watch a bunch of spy things and they kind of try to make it humorous and they try to be unusual. I believe it when the Ramones say they weren't trying to write weird songs. When I say they say they were trying to write normal songs, but they were weird and they accidentally came out that way. I do believe that because I believe that Tommy put weirdos in a room and knew they would make something interesting.
Yeah.
So I do think they weren't trying to be weird. They really were just like unusual.
This is just them. This is just their interest.
Yeah. But it's not like they would write a song that was funny and not know it was funny. They were just thinking this is a funny song and not knowing they would offend people or somebody would think it's that strange. But no, Havana Affair is great. So the second album, the B-side, you'll notice the second side has a lot more songs that kind of run into each other and stuff. It plays a lot more like a live show.
Yeah.
I think they kind of have it do that, give it even more of a live experience.
I had to just go and check real quick and see who Let's Dance was a cover.
Yes, Chris Montez.
Yeah, I'd only ever listened to the version by the Ramones.
If you listen to his version, you listen to the original version, it is slower. It's not that much slower, though. Here's the thing. Like, the Ramones trim it a little bit, streamline it. It still has some variation on the opening drums, but Tommy makes it better. But really, the thing is, the song feels super faster. It is faster, but it feels super faster because the guitars, you got that guitar distortion over it, the thumping, the quick bass, the doo-doo-doo bass. Yeah. And so it makes it seem like it's really, really fast, but it's not that much faster. It's faster, but the original sounds dinkier. But the Ramones were inspired by early rock and roll, and you know how dinky most of that sounds. Yeah. It's like to our sensibilities. If they go on several times when they want to go back, I remember years and years ago when they were making a movie about Stu Sutcliffe, about the Beatles. Yeah. And guy that died. Yeah. The artist. When they were talking about recording the soundtrack for it, they kept talking about how they had to have the guitars be more like modern and more distorted and stuff like that. Because if you try to make us watch a movie about the Beatles and be authentic, we're going to be like, well, what's the big deal? Like if you really tried to recreate, because it'd just be like ding, 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 ding. And I mean, honestly, early punk rock's that way. If you go back and listen to like Eater or whatever, like the early British punk bands, it just sounds like they're kind of playing like it's like, do they even have any distortion? Like, what are they doing? Yeah, it sounds all jangly.
Yeah, I'm not really big on like jangle pop music even later on either. Yeah, but I'm a massive Beatles fan, and those first couple albums, like guitar tone wise, they're just like so boring. Yeah, like it's just not. Yeah. It gets a lot better as it goes on.
Yeah, they got a little bit more. They got a little bit more creative and more control over what they were doing. Also, they got to be the Beatles, and then when you're the Beatles, you can do stuff how you want to, and you have the right people to help you do the stuff you want to. So Let's Dance is good, and again, it's fun. Again, we talk about how this is like, people say it's a stripped down album. That thing has of course they record it like Rocket City Music Hall, but that thing has a damn Wurlitzer organ playing on it, and it's and this is what's brilliant about the recording is, and you hear this a lot of early punk and new wave stuff, where I'll use Blondie as an example. We talk about X Offender, where they have a keyboardist. The keyboard's going to be like way loud in the mix, and it's going to sound like ding, 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 ding. And you're just like, sometimes that's awesome, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it doesn't carry over. With them, it's almost, it's not super low in the mix. It's not like to where it's subliminal, but it's almost subliminal how low they have that Wurlitzer organ playing on Let's Dance. So it doesn't take away from the song.
It's more like atmosphere than like playing a lead.
And that's really brilliant and thoughtful. But when they were recording, of course, Tommy Ramone had a history with working in studios and stuff. He co-produced it. He would become a producer, a full-on producer later on anyway. Craig Leon knew what he was doing. There was lots of, like, they were listening to stuff like dub, listening to how things were done. So they really thought about, like, how can we make this, but they really treat it. They haven't said it that I know of, but I wonder if they also thought they were trying to appeal to the New York art scene anyway, because that's who their original following was, So maybe they were thinking more arty when they were putting all that together. But it's very brilliant how subtle. In a post Ramones world, I would think to make that subtle. But without that, would we think to do that? Like, if we had like, we got a Wurlitzer organ over here.
Yeah.
It's just this atmosphere. And it's like, no, other people would be like, we have access to this thing.
Yeah,
this is now a Wurlitzer album, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Wurlitzer on all of them, you know? But yeah.
It's a nice touch.
Yeah.
There's the producer that played it too. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He just comes in and just plays that, just puts it in the background. So it went from Let's Dance to I Don't Want to Walk Around With You, which is like one of their old songs, like old songs. They started out with all I Don't Wanna. That's all it's always I Don't Wanna, that everything. That was a massive thing with them. They just had, because there's a lot of them that were just like demos, like I Don't Want to Be Learned, I Don't Want to Be Tamed, which that's one where Joey has that British accent. I don't want to be learned, and I don't want to be timed. But he doesn't want to be tamed. But basically on this album, it's like they keep that there, but they're essentially using it as an intro for the last song, Today Your Love, Tomorrow the World, if you think about it. Like, it's like this fast, simple song, and it carries over, and you have the feedback that goes over.
Yeah, between the two tracks.
And then you hear it's on 2 tracks, but you hear it like, and you hear Dee Dee do the 1, 2, 3, 4 as it goes in, it builds up to that, which, when I was a teenager, I had it on cassette. I had headphones, and like one of the speakers was screwed up. One of the ears was messed up. So I didn't hear Dee Dee do the count off of 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first time I heard that, like somebody else's house, I was like, what the hell? Dee Dee's counting off over here? And I was like, what? So
wait, so if one of your headphones didn't work, did you not get like the bass part or something? Like,
yeah. I can't remember which side I got. I can't believe I feel like, I don't know, whichever side Dee Dee was saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and I guess I need to look it up. Yeah. Go back and listen to it and figure out which year that was. But I can't remember now because this was like 30 years ago. So I don't know. But it was the song. Okay, so this song, the Ramones have references to Germany and Nazi references. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the big swastika elephant in the room. They, at the time with punk rock, and this is not really about, although it comes from some of the same place, not really about like the swastikas that like the British punks wore later on, that kind of thing. But in that era, it was almost like more of a cartoony thought. These guys weren't thinking like there's going to be neo-Nazis stomping around doing this stuff. Like they were like, this is like Hogan's Heroes era. You're seeing like comical Nazis, and they're over the top thing, and it's they dressed weird, and it was interesting for that. Dee Dee grew up in West Germany post-war, so he saw, like, his dad was in the military, so he was over there. So he played with like old things left over from the war, just Nazi stuff just laying around, and they played with it. So they were not Nazis, and they were not into the Nazi stuff. Like, people like to say, well, Johnny was a right winger, and it's like, yeah, but he was also an American. Here, I'm about to say something for the Trumpers, but it's un-American to be a Nazi. I shouldn't have to say that.
Yeah,
but Johnny Ramone was all about America. He was very in his head. He was probably kind of like what Jonathan Richman puts himself out as on the first Modern Lovers album. He says he's in love with the USA, and like, what are all these? He's acting like, what are all these students protesting about? America's great. It's kind of it's not a real, it's not a legitimate thought process, but it was kind of cute at the time. Yeah. So no, Johnny would not be for Nazis. He was very pro-American. He's pro-American culture and stuff. And the Ramones are that.
Being a right wing or a conservative in that time.
Yeah.
Like now, I hate to say it, but it makes you, being a right winger now, you are moving in dangerous territory towards Nazism. But back then, being a right winger didn't always lead to that.
No, exactly. That's it, exactly. Also, so Joey was Jewish. Jeffrey Hyman's a Jewish name. Tommy was Jewish. Tommy's the one who put the band together. Tommy's parents were Holocaust survivors.
Oh, I know that.
So yeah, these are not like these are guys who are aware of this stuff. They did have to change some of the lyrics, which that should go in my notes. I don't know what the alternate lyrics were. I can't remember what they were. So there was stuff like, it says, "I'm a Nazi, Shotzi, I'm a Nazi, yes I am." There was like other. I mean, the song is a story. So he says he's a Nazi. He's not saying he's really a Nazi. He's singing about being a soldier, and he's today your love, tomorrow the world. It's a comical song in that regard, you know. But there is a legend, and I'm not saying it's true, and I'm not saying how true it would be if it were true. Some people believe that Danny Fields, you know, I said that how he was like their co-manager, right?
Yeah.
Well, Danny Fields, some people believe that Danny Fields talked them into putting the more Nazi references in their stuff and be more edgy. And Danny Fields would have been like, so it's like, this would be a thing, be more shocking, more interesting, do this.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is. He may have just encouraged it. Like I said, Dee Dee came from West Germany, and Dee Dee's the main lyricist, at least what we think of as stereotypical Ramones. That's just Dee Dee writing.
Yeah.
You know,
that's why things
Dee Dee's
sound
life.
different and change a lot after he's gone.
Yeah, well, you know how like Dennis Wilson was like the surfer in the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Dee Dee Ramone's the Ramone in the Ramones. That's what he was. He was the one living the Ramones life. The rest of them are being weird Ramones, but they're not the Ramones. He was like Dee Dee Ramone. He's the first one who was calling himself Ramone. He's calling himself Dee Dee Ramone. But there is some logic to the idea that Danny Fields was pushing something, because Danny Fields, he definitely liked to mess with the status quo. Before he was manager of the Ramones, he had been manager of the Stooges. He was manager of Iggy and the Stooges. Well, the Stooges, not when they were Iggy and the Stooges, he was out of the picture. But he's also the guy who, you know how everybody got all in an uproar about the John Lennon interview where he said the Beatles bigger than Jesus?
Yeah.
Okay, that interview had already been published a while before. Danny Fields was editor for a teen magazine and made sure to put it in there and like put it in big bold on the front.
So
like,
he was pushing that.
He pushed it to be like, shocker, you know. And that got all the shitty disc jockeys in Birmingham pissed off, and they're burning Beatles records and stuff. But he caused that. He was the one who caused, like, Danny Fields is responsible for the controversy.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, John Lennon said it, but he had said it months before and nobody cared. They also said in the interview, I can't remember if John Lennon said it or if Paul said it. One of them, they did use the N-word and said it, in America, all black people are just that. And I think it was Paul. I may be wrong. But the reason why he was saying it, I think, more in the context of how black people were treated in America.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they I mean, when they first came to America, they refused to play segregated places.
No, so they weren't.
I couldn't imagine him using that word negatively.
So I think he was using it as that's all how America treats black people.
Yeah.
I want to point out, though, that the guys who were all super offended by that and burning all the records, they weren't bothered by that. Yeah. They were bothered by the bigger than Jesus, not the other thing. So they're like, yeah, well, I mean, that's fair, but the Jesus, you know, and it's like, yeah, that's how that was, you know. But yeah, so there is some logic to think that Danny Fields might have nudged him in a certain direction. Like the Ramones started out just
controversy maker.
Well, think about all the Ramones were doing before he came along were I don't wanna songs, and or I want to be your boyfriend. That was it. You know, and then he comes along and all of a sudden they're doing it. But also he could have been like, hey, you guys, why don't you do that? Also, they're writing, if you keep writing songs, you're going to get more depth to the songs and have more stories, you know? So I don't think there's really anything to it, but it's fun to think like, did he like kind of push him, you know? Danny Fields is a crazy guy. If you ever have a chance to watch a documentary about him, it's pretty good. Danny Says, named after the later Ramone song.
Wow. When did that come out?
I want to say a couple of years ago, but you know, COVID has made time.
I'll have to
change.
Look that up.
Yeah.
What song do we got left?
We covered all those songs. But no, I mean, the album is really, really good. I do feel like they end on a strong note because that song. First of all, that song's lengthier than some of the others on there. You know, it has more stuff going on. It changes up. Has an outro. You know. It doesn't just kind of end. It actually has an outro that, you know, does.
It's worth noting. I saw this when I was doing some research on the album. That they did the whole album in 7 days.
Yeah.
Did all the instruments in 3 days and the vocals for the next 4 days.
They did it. Seymour Stein said that with Sire Records, and Jill Stein's husband at the time, he said that he loved the Ramones, and he kept because the Ramones stayed on Sire Records through like 1990, 1989. Like so, their last album on Sire Records is Brain Drain, with Pet Sematary and all that. So the last Dee Dee album. So they stuck with him for a while, and they never had hits. So, but he was asked like, "Why do you keep them?" And he's like, "I like them. It's like I really like the Ramones. Like I like them." But then he was also like, "And they're cheap. Like they're affordable. They're." A lot was said. That first album cost like, I think it was like a little over $6,000 to produce.
That's really cheap.
It is,
even by those standards.
In those days, I think it turns out. I think it would translate to about $30,000 in today's dollars. But for like a big, like what they're thinking is supposed to be the next big thing in rock music, in '70s rock music, that's nothing. Like that's a pittance, But yeah, the album was not a hit. I mean, again, we should be so lucky as to have an album that sells as awesomely poorly as theirs did. Every time you ever hear about how an album flopped that was like super influential, it's like stuff that us indie music makers today would be like, I would give anything to sell that. They're like, oh, what a flop. They only sold 10,000 copies. Like, what? I can't take it. I
think just in general back then there was less music coming out.
Yeah.
So since you have less of a catalog, I think things just each individual album got more sales than they would today because now there's so much that comes out.
Oh yeah, but yeah, did you ever listen to the mono version when it came out like a couple years ago? A few years. I say a couple again. COVID. I don't know when it came out. So I have the mono version. Like they included it was probably with like a record store day exclusive thing or something. So
why would anybody want that?
It's the Ramones when they first made the thing intended to make a mono version.
Oh.
Yeah. So they went back and they made a mono version. It doesn't sound bad. It sounds kind of good. It kind of has like a warm, more wall of noise. Not wall. The wall of noise sounds too grand, but it has a warmer, fuller feel. Okay. So you got to think like because I thought the same thing. So I was like, what stands out about the Ramones album is the channels.
Yeah. The left and right guitar and bass. Yeah.
But but no, it kind of makes it all go together in a nice, warm way. And again, if you go back to the music they were listening to, so a lot of the music that inspired them, early on, stereo was considered like a novelty, and they would go back and try to retrofit old. They'll take like a Rolling Stone song that's supposed to be mono, and then like try to make it be stereo. So you just hear like one little like ding over in one speaker a certain way, and like, what the hell is this? That's why they make such a big deal when you look at quote unquote oldies from like the 50s and 60s, and they'll make sure to say mono version. And it's like, because some of the stereo ones were kind of rough.
I know even like some of the earlier Beatles albums when they would put them in stereo.
Yeah.
It'd be like everything would be in one channel, and then like the right channel would be a tambourine and the guitar.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like, this wasn't great. I'd rather just be like on a really nice with really nice speakers, just playing the same thing. I think that would be good. But I recommend checking out the mono one. I don't necessarily. Surely the mono one's just streaming somewhere. It might be. I haven't looked, but the mono now. But it's a solid listen. Like I said, I don't go back and listen to it instead. Some people prefer it though, but I go back and listen to the original. As far as I could tell, all the remasters they've done over the years of the first album are solid. I've never heard one where I'm like, ew, what have they done? Why'd they do this?
Okay, it has it on YouTube Music.
Yeah.
Well, the 40th anniversary edition.
That's what it was. 40th, 10 years. I'm a couple years ago. Damn it.
Oh, there's all kinds of demos. This song's on here too.
Oh, yeah. The Ramones did tons of demos. Those early ones. Like I said, so the Ramones did some demos with Marty Thau, 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 AU. I can't remember. He was like, I think, a manager of the New York Dolls early on, and he did like had paid for the early demos with the Ramones, and those are pretty good. The Ramones demos are neat because they sound more like what we know of as the Ramones than the actual album version. I guess more like the second and third albums. It sounds but rougher and raw. But it sounds less, again, the playing with the channels, making things sound really like, I mean, the bass sounds insane on that album, on the first album. That how utterly clean it is, how it's just really carrying that thing. Like that album without bass.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious. What year?
That's what I'm saying. I can't remember how it was. I don't know why I can't remember, because it seemed like that would have stood out to me what I'm suspecting is I'm thinking I had one speaker that was just shitty.
Okay,
so it wasn't it was still representing the bass, but not
as good as
not as good. That's the best I can figure, because surely the guitar. Honestly, if you're missing the guitar on the first album for a lot of it, you're not missing that much, because it is just like, it sounds like
guitar
it's it just sounds like distortion.
Yeah,
it just sounds like just shh, which a lot of that you think you're hearing guitar. If you think about it, you're hearing more like hi-hat and being hit and cymbals. But nope, it's a good album, and I can't wait to get back together with you to talk about the 100th anniversary of it. It's gonna be great.
50 years.
50 years. And another 50 years.
How old will you be in 50 years? 90?
Shit. I don't want to talk about it. 50 years.
Let's go.
Pushing 90.